Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and this is an orchid video. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to repot one of my Lycastes. Now I'm not an expert on Lycastes, I've repotted 3 of them before, but they seem to have done well, so let's repot a Lycaste. Well, you're all very welcome to my kitchen, and we're all set up here now to repot this orchid. So I have in front of me the Lycaste that we're going to repot. I have some sphagnum moss. I've got a unsterilised bowl where I'm going to just put some debris. I've got a sterilised bowl and a sterilised scissors. Sterilised them in bleach, a bleach solution for a while beforehand. And on the floor we have some perlite and orchid bark. And I guess the first thing is to have a close-up look at this orchid. And Lycaste are a wonderful orchid that tend to go dormant at certain stages, so they actually lose their foliage. The ones I grow do anyway. They lose their foliage and then they send up a new shoot. And this is what's actually happening here. This one is sending up a new shoot. And you need to wait until that new shoot is a decent height before you actually repot. And that means that there should be roots happening down below. And now is the ideal time to repot this particular one. Now, why am I repotting? And if we look at this orchid, it does seem that there is space in here for the thing to expand. But if we look at the side of the pot, you can see that there is a lot of moss and stuff in there. And basically I just want to see what's going on with its roots. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just take this orchid out of the pot. I'm just giving it a little squeeze. And we will now remove it. Take the label out first. And this moss that's growing there is really welded to the side of the pot. Now what you have to be very careful not to do is to break the new growth. This one doesn't want to come out. Oh, now he does. Okay, out he goes. And look at all that moss. Now, having said that, I'm about to mix some sphagnum moss in with it, so it's not the worst thing. Now, there are different opinions about how to repot Lycaste, and some people say you should disturb the roots as little as possible, and others say you should treat it like a normal orchid, take off all the old bark and go that way. But because the old bark has deteriorated, and I can see already that some of the roots aren't looking so great, and because I need to take off all of this moss, we're going to do a complete exposure really of the root system. Okay, now I'm just working away here at the bark, knocking it out as much as I can. And peeling off this moss. Now, Lycaste, of course, are a little bit terrestrial. So, like Cymbidium orchids, they can do with some peat in their mix. They're not ones that need the expert drainage that many other orchids do. So they need a little bit of moisture in there. So the fact that there's moss growing here isn't the terrible alarm signal. It doesn't give the terrible alarm signal that it might do if this were, say, a Cattleya orchid or something else. Now we've got some polystyrene chips at the end, which we're just taking out. And I'm going to just give this a little smell, see what it smells like. And it doesn't smell great. And actually we can see that a lot of these roots are degraded a good bit. Yeah. So the trick with this is easy does it. Take your time. Don't be in a rush to rip the roots out, because that would be bad news. I'm just wondering where the new roots are on my new growth. And I don't actually see them. isn't a terribly good sign. If they're not there already, then presumably they'll come soon with the emergence of the new growth. I mean, that's the way this plant operates. You get a healthy shoot coming up first, and then the roots follow. So that's what we hope for. And I think, you know, the fact that the advice says wait till the new growth is quite long like this before repotting is an indication that the roots happen quite late in the new growth process. So, you know, by waiting for the growth to get to a certain length, you're ensuring that some roots will be there. However, I don't seem to have any, but we will see. Okay, this is a bit of a mess. Now, this is not a great looking root system. Most of the roots are completely degraded, and you can tell this particular one, the coating on the root has come away. There are some that are mushy. This one is quite mushy to the touch, and there are others. Well, that one may be some life left in it yet, but there are others that are just like completely dead. So what I'm going to do is cut off a lot of these roots. So taking my sterilized scissors, I'm going to just feel as I go. Oops. And just kind of remove what doesn't want to live. Now, with a bit of luck, the new growth will push out new roots, and before long they'll be doing a good enough job in anchoring the plant in the pot. So this is going to take quite a while. I guess what we might do is go away and come back in a short time and see the end result. And here we are back again, and I've removed all of the roots that I want to from this poor Lycaste, and there's not much left. Now these ones here, they're firm. The ones that I've left are firm. Some of them are a bit dodgy, like I'm not sure if they will actually survive, but I don't want to take all of the roots off completely. So we are going to go with that, and I'm going to pot it. Now, okay, so choice of pot size. And I've gone with this size here. Let me just show you in a second. So my natural instinct was to put it in a pot of about this size, and that would have given, well, the plant looked a bit more substantial when it started out. But if it were a Cattleya, I might put it in a pot this size. However, Lycaste are really not an orchid that you want to overpot, so I've gone with the smaller size in the end, and this is the one that we're going to use. Right, so that's sterilized. We'll just put that aside, and now I'm going to make up in this bowl the mix that I will use to pot the plant in. And I'm not actually going to use peat, despite the fact that I could. I'm going to use some orchid bark. Now, as you can see, this is an orchid bark that has, you know, I mean, it seems to have some kind of wood chip or something in it. So it's one that's going to retain moisture more than other orchid barks would. It wouldn't be a great one to use for potting a Cattleya in. That's it. Chameleon it's called. But this is the one we're going with. So I'm just putting out some orchid bark here. And then I'm going to mix into that some perlite, and perlite is a great substance for keeping plants hydrated but not too hydrated. So it really does a job of making sure that the roots don't get too wet or don't retain moisture for too long. Okay, I'll go with that. And because of the terrestrial nature of this orchid, I'm also going to put in some sphagnum, and this retains moisture quite well. So orchid bark, sphagnum and perlite are what is going into the mix for this particular orchid. Now this is the end of the bag of perlite, so it's quite broken up down there, but I think that'll work well with a terrestrial orchid like this that wants to retain more moisture. Okay, giving that a bit of a mix, and that looks quite good to me. Next thing I'm going to do is take my pot and place my orchid as I would in the pot. So I'm going to put the pseudobulbs back against this side of the pot, leaving plenty of space in front where the new growth comes, because that's where the plant will grow naturally. And here I'm just going to backfill with my mix. Now just moving this over here so I can get some in behind. Some in around, and just firming down a bit as I go. Now, just tap down a bit. I want to make sure all of the air pockets have been removed from the mixture. And just maybe a little something at the back here. Okay, and here's my very faded label going back in. Okay, so that's my repotted orchid. Now I'm actually going to water this once, and well, water it quite thoroughly once, and put it aside, and hopefully this plant is going to start growing roots soon and will reward me with flowers this year. This is one that has never flowered for me yet, and actually looking at the state of the mix that it was in, perhaps that's the reason, rather than the fact that the plant might be too small to flower yet. Okay, that was my Lycaste repotting video, which I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you find useful if you grow Lycaste. And if you don't grow Lycaste, I really encourage you to look out for some of those glorious ones that you see at shows with the big flowers, big triangular flowers in pretty colours, because they really are a novelty plant that makes a welcome and different addition to an orchid collection. Thanks very much for watching. Bye!